Hi, and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther with you on Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Back for another live, number 6 this time. The title of this is simply Lavender Sky Panther for several reasons. One, I wanted to touch on all of the magnificent lavender and pink skies that have been showing up periodically over the last, well, since I've noticed them, 6 years or so. And also, we're going to kind of cover a lot of topics today. So if you happen to be joining in on this live, welcome, whether you're new or returning to this channel. And if you want to mention anything in the chat, feel free. I do have some topics I'm going to touch on, but if anybody wants to throw out any other topics, feel free. And if you're watching this on the replay, great. It's equally great. So let's do this. I want to touch on a few things that I did not in my previous live 5. And that one was with the tree family. And I did touch on the Sasquatchy people and a few other topics. And I mentioned a lot about the people and Sasquatch Bigfoot topic, but I forgot to just mention, I just wanted to just drop a few other little things, subject areas surrounding that topic. In case you're kind of new to the subject, or you might want to use that as a springboard to go investigate and do more research on your own. So one thing that I started to mention, but I didn't follow through on it was, sorry, I'm just checking something here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, what I didn't get to follow through on was the physiology or the stature, the physicality of the Sasquatchy people. And I'm just kind of jumping right in, and we're going to fly over a lot of different topics today. But anyway, I did start off mentioning and tying it in and relating the Sasquatch that appeared in things like the $6 Million Man, the Bonic Man, also obviously the Star Wars movies. And, so I started mentioning the physique, or, some of the Sasquatch are very tall and lanky, like thin athletic build as represented by Chewbacca, right? But also there's the really buff, the one that never missed a day at the gym type with an extremely broad chest, longer arms that go down. And sometimes the head has a cone shape and sometimes it's rounded. So I wasn't really aware of that. I had always heard, let me come up a little closer, of the cone shape. But then a couple of years ago, I mentioned this in other shows, I was sitting at a dining room table and doing some work, and I just gazed up. It was getting to be pretty dark outside toward twilight, but I saw a figure go by, very tall, and I didn't even think about the possibility of that being a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, because the head shape have that cone shape and like that build. But then after that, I had heard, yes, they can absolutely have a more round head, more quote unquote, like a human being formed head. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because both of that, exists, that type. Then also the fact that they can travel as orbs, golden orbs of light. And supposedly we human beings have that encoded, embedded within us, that ability to do as well, to travel as a form of a Merkaba or turn into a light body eventually. And I think, over time, in this kind of great ascension period that we're in, a lot of us might start to remember, have dreams of it or kind of feelings of that's possible. I know some people already in dream state often have a dream that they're flying over somewhere. And that's just our memory of things that we could do before, we entered into this earthly plane, if you will. But back to the Sasquatch, there are just a couple other quick points I wanted to mention. Their DNA, some people are doing studies of hair samples, and some have concluded that there is a human DNA strand in there of a woman, and other part something else. If that's true or not, I don't know. I haven't studied it. But if you dig around on YouTube, there are plenty of people that mention this, and certain scientists out there that are doing those studies. Also, there's a potential that there's chlorophyll in the blood or the DNA, because the Sasquatch can transform easily into a tree stump, an actual tree, foliage. They're masters at camouflaging, going interdimensional, going invisible, etc. Okay, I think, let's see. There's also different names for the Sasquatchy people, depending on what tribes and, with indigenous. Oh, hi, welcome, SugarSeas. I see you popped up. Where you are geographically, a lot of indigenous tribes, called the Sasquatchy people different names. maybe they were stick people, or, like I said, and mentioned in Australia, they're the Yowie, there's the Doolittle, there's all kinds of names, right, for the same type of being. And of course, the Yeti, that's what we equate, like in the Himalayas, the white variety. And I did mention in the previous show, there's a series called The Life and Teachings of the Ascended Masters, or sorry, the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And there's an account of this group taking an expedition from the States over to the Far East in the late 1800s. And they document an encounter where they heard of these wild men out, in kind of like a Nepal kind of region. And I think that's what they were getting at was, the Sasquatchy people. But anyway, I think that's, then the one last aspect I wanted to touch on, just to throw out again, as a broad topic, general topic for anyone to check out later, is the idea of the connection of the UFOs and the Sasquatch, or the Sasquatchy people. And I did mention in the previous show about that, $6 Million Man series from the 70s, the TV show. There were 2 episodes covering, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear, put me on mute for a second, a bionic or kind of like transhuman Sasquatch, that these star people that had like a colony inside what they were referring to as Mount Shasta, they were alluding to that, had, tinkered with and created a Sasquatch for their purposes. And I think that was absolutely a hint drop that there are galactic beings out there that probably have a prototype or form of a Sasquatch looking being that they can drop down and does their kind of handiwork and then goes back up. So it might not be the earthy, authentic, more human, in touch with human form of Sasquatch. So those are just some thoughts, throwing them out there. But see my previous show if you want to hear more about that in detail. Okay, now otherwise, we'll get to what I was going to talk about in this show. So I just called it Lavender Sky Panther because for whatever reason, I am not, let's just make this clear, I am not like a pink lavender pastel kind of girl, okay? And yet, when I started my channel 5 years ago, I'm like, what name do I do? Why am I even doing this? And it was because I was told to look up, right? Those are 2 words that came in strong, like hit me over the head kind of strong, like you are going to start looking up. And that's what I accounted it for or recounted in my first couple of lives. Why I even started doing this channel, it's a kind of reluctant YouTuber, I was, seeing things and documenting things, but I didn't really want to go public. So of course, to go public, I selected an artist name, if you were my alias. So that's Varleigh. And I'm going to say the meaning behind the names because we're going to be getting into that in the second part of the show. There's a kind of surprise topic that just popped up as I was meditating, connecting in on what should I even bring through on this show? Should I even do a show? All the usual questions. And should I do it today? I really wasn't feeling it. I don't know if anybody else out there is having this issue, but these big full moon, happens to be a pink full moon. I had no idea when I was, going to go talk about the show with the pinks and purples. But man, those energies are kicking my asteroid, if you know what I mean, today. So I almost didn't come on. I was going to postpone the show, but no. We're doing it. But anyway, back to the purple, pink pastels. That's usually not me. But when I was going to select my name, I really was noticing these incredibly intense lavender, purple, pink skies, coming up that I had never seen in my many decades on this planet. So I'm like, there's something about that color. All right, we'll go with lavender. But more than just the color of the skies, it was also the healing power of lavender as like a plant medicine. So like this is some, fresh lavender buds and just all the amazing things that lavender can do. I'm not going to go into them here. There's so many, but as we know, it's like a calming, soothing plant, flower, scent, and also the color on the eyes, the color therapy. So I thought, well, that's good. I like the idea of lavender being healing, lavender in the skies, and also the idea of the frequency. So if we go up with the chakras, you get to violet, lavender area, of course, at the crown, high vibrational color. And also I like the idea of, if you could put color into words as a sound, I like the idea of lavender being that soothing, smooth tone in the voice, which I do try to bring, through when I'm talking. So, and that can have a healing property too, just even the tonality of that. So that's the lavender part. The sky part I already mentioned, started looking up. And if you've looked at my channel at all, you've seen all of the numerous examples of the cloaking craft and things I've been documenting. And then, the lavender pinks in the skies. And panther is just kind of referring to my spirit animal, or at least one of them. So that's a question out to everybody. Do you have a spirit animal? Do you know what yours is? If you don't have one or haven't really thought about it, there's a very easy meditation to do. And there's a lot of guided meditations. I think you can even find them online. Just to, they can even be under 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to just go into a very light one, just listen to somebody talking, and they give you some imagery, and then you might be able to, see your one of your many spirit animals out there. Okay. All right. So that was just that part of what I was going to touch on. So I'll just hold up a couple of examples to cover the pink and purple sky part. Let's see, I put some in the little, thumbnail for the cover. And there's plenty more examples on my channel, but I'm going to hold this up for a second. Okay. So this is, okay, here's the reverse syndrome again that I have. Okay, so up here, this was one of the first very vibrant purple pink skies that I saw over the past years. And this just lit up the entire sky to the point where even the driveway, which is at the time where I was living, was a black asphalt, or bitumen, you say in UK and other places. It was pitch black on the ground of that asphalt. And yet when the sky just suddenly erupted in this glow, even the asphalt had a pink hue to it. It was amazing. And it just had this whole vibe of euphoria. You feel uplifted, really pretty and indescribable. Okay, then there's other examples where over here, since I see SugarSeas had popped up in the chat, show number 175 that I called Candy Floss. There's something more to it. I think I cut it off. But anyway, SugarSeas also documents some incredible things in the sky, especially lately with lightning and craft. I highly recommend you go check her channel out. I'll put her link in the description area below after all of this. But anyway, I had taken some of her footage and done some analysis, and this is just one little excerpt of that show where, there's craft coming out of a big cloud, and then we have other examples on my channel where not only does it turn like this magenta, but also like this ethereal violet indigo kind of color. And it just then with some white in here, this looks like a twisted cornucopia, or like a tunnel, like if you could, what do you call it? Not a wormhole. That's kind of like the low vibed meaning for like Stargate. But anyway, it's like a tube and it twists and turns. Something starts here and it comes up to the front. It looks like something's exiting out of it. So anyway, just example of sometimes the sky can be generating this pink, vibrant pink, salmon, even purples, lavenders. I don't know what's causing it all. Sometimes it's craft. Sometimes it's something else, but whatever the case, it's all worthy and you can't mistake it when that starts to happen. So as I always like to say, some of you might have a channel already ongoing and some of you might not. And if you want a good excuse to start one, just start looking up. You can do shorts videos. Just go out wherever you are, look up and take a quick little pan through the sky, especially if you start to see some extraordinary things or some extraordinary color ranges popping up. Okay. Now, I think what I'll do is move on over to an interesting topic that I did not expect would come up today. Oh, you know what? Before I do, there are a couple other things I mentioned I would touch on. Let me do that because the next topic's pretty big. I did say, I think I mentioned in one of my little preview things that I was going to talk about some crystals. I'm going to just do that for that, showing crystals. I do have a few shows where, kindly go look at that whenever you want. I think I have 4 parts now. Going into crystals in detail, an overview of different ones and what they do. This is one that I acquired recently, and it's really beautiful. It's a very pale lavender, keeping with the theme of the show. And the little teeth on this, they're very young crystals, and those can be very powerful and pure. This is what the back looks like a little bit. But anyway, this has become, it's just really nice as a healer too for doing crystal healing. So I just wanted to bring that up because it really does go really well with this little background set and talking about crystals. So what I'm going to do for the crystals portion is stick with the theme of pinks and purples. That was amethyst. This one is, okay, I'm thinking of it. I have it on the card down here. This is just one of those functions of being live. And I'm like, I know it, but now I'm on live. Okay, rhodonite. I couldn't think of the word. Here it is. So here's an example of rhodonite. And I know my lighting is not the best right now. It's a little dim. But I have these in, better lighting on other shows on my channel. So anyway, for the crystals part, I'll show one more. We'll do a little show and tell on crystals. Why not? That's another one, amethyst, with like a deeper purple color. And that you can see on the back was just kind of a geode, and you crack it open and you're like, wow, whole beautiful world going on inside. So that's another nice little message of, don't go by appearances. It's like a muddy looking rock. which can be beautiful in its own right, very earthy thing. But then, wow, you get the wow factor looking on the inside, right? Okay. Anyway, let's look at some cards that I pre-selected just because I wanted to only kind of discuss the purples and pinks. Oh, and SugarSeas says beautiful. Thank you, SugarSeas. Okay, so here's the messages. I'm kind of going to go through flashcard lightning round style on these. So we have amethyst, and the message is, it's dark over here. Got to use my little lights. Okay, trust your intuition. Okay, I'll go through fast on this for people who aren't so much into cards, but that's just a nice example. Okay, then we have rainbow obsidian, and the message is, let's see. It's a good thing I can't even read. It's so dim here. Hold on. I need a flashlight. Okay, I'm going to have to flashlight this one. Bear with me, guys. This is the beautiful function of going live. Oh, okay, that was easy. Heal your heart. Okay. All right. Glad I don't have any animals running around on set. That'd be even more unpredictable, right? So heal your heart. Okay, and then actually the nice thing on this card is if you look in the center, it even has a little heart formed by the little kind of like bands, the inherent bands within the stone. That would be a beautiful one to have. Oh, and I just wanted to say, give a shout out. I know SugarSeas has a beautiful crystal collection too, just from what I've seen online. Oh, and I'm going to call you out, SugarSeas, in a good way. She also has some incredible spirit beings visible within the crystals. So again, I highly recommend you go check out her channel to see some of those things, and not just in the main videos, but also in the shorts. Okay, she's got a lot of incredible stuff. All right, then we have lepidolite, and you know what? This one, I'm like in the dark ages. I can't even read this. Let's see. You know what? Okay, recall. Okay, this is embarrassing. Actually not. Hold on. We have time, don't we? Sorry, recall your dreams. I just have to have my flashlight handy. I got to get better lighting here on this set next time. Okay, so recall your dreams. So if you want to work with recalling your dreams and things, you can use lepidolite. Without the glare. This is actually looking pretty muddy. Lepidolite is actually a really beautiful lavender in person. Okay, then we have rhodonite, and find your way to forgive. Okay, I can finally read it without the flashlight. Find your way to forgive, and that's pink. Some can be mostly pink. Some are pink and black. Then we have pink opal. Be kind to yourself. We're getting into the pinks. Pink opal can be really extraordinary, also in the raw state, not just polished or tumbled. Then everybody, I think, knows rose quartz as being a powerful healer, heart healer. This one is just saying messages, open your heart. Okay, then we have rhodochrosite, which has very interesting patterns often. And this one says, remember your worth. And then they also, they tend to look like that. They kind of have a busier pattern in there for rhodochrosite. Okay, then we have the deck of the crystal grids. And this one is self-love. And this one is a calcite and, beautiful, crystal grid there. And actually the colors are more vibrant than I think they're appearing on the screen for you all. And again, by next time I'll get my lighting worked out. But this is number 4, if anybody's looking for a message in numbers in the numerology of things. The next one coming up is love is the message, 25 or 7, rose quartz. Okay, and it's a beautiful grid. Maybe this inspires you to do some crystal grids. There's a great YouTube channel called Kristen's Crystal Grids. She's, I think, out of Australia. I'll put a link to her channel below as well. I've done that in the past. She's got some really beautiful things going on. Okay, then we have transformation with amethyst, and this is number 10 or number 1. Again, maybe some of these patterns mean something to you. You never know where certain messages are going to come through, whether visually or in a tone, a sound, a word, or synchronicity. This is number 7, heart protection, pink fluorite. Actually, it says pink fluorite, but it's looking a little purple. But again, I'm holding these up more for just looking at the pattern. Maybe the structure of these, kind of evokes something in you, inspire you to go look or do something with it. And then transition 33 or number 6. And this is a lepidolite. And this is a slightly different character of the grid that she's got going on. And I'll put the name of that deck in the description area below as well. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit about the crystals. And I think I'll just launch into a pretty big topic. This one I did not expect to talk about, but I can't avoid it. It was coming up strong. something led me to bring up a poem or a sonnet by Michelangelo Buonarroti. That's the Michelangelo everybody knows of art history fame, Michelangelo, doing not only frescoes, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, every number of famous statues and sculptures out of Carrara marble, such as the David in Florence, the Pieta, that's sitting in the Vatican. And there's a whole story to all of that. When I was, for whatever reason, that was coming up strong for me to bring up his sonnets, because a lot of people don't know that he wrote a ton of poetry. And there are a lot of links out there that you can dig around in and read some. And they also have the translation. So one sonnet that came to mind is one kind of very personal to me, but I had the phrase hitting me all day long: don't die with the music inside. Not that I feel like I'm going to die anytime soon. Actually, I've been told, no, I'll be going on for a while. But it was just something about share even what seems to be kind of sacred, to you. So I'm going to share a sonnet that I discovered probably over 25, 30 years ago. And I found it before the days of internet in a fine arts college school and the deep, deep, rare collection archives. If you've been around on this planet long enough, that's how we discovered things. It was through books. There was no internet. And you really had to do some digging. And especially if you went into the rare book collections, you got that musty smell, sometimes mildewy and moldy. But that's where you had a treasure trove of information that you couldn't find anywhere else. Otherwise, all the households had these Encyclopedia Britannica or Collier's Encyclopedia, and it was only one specific, narrow vision, limited range of facts that households would go refer to. And if, again, you're my age in and around that vintage, you know what I'm talking about. You do a school project. The only source or resource we had to go find out information was this one little section of volume of books, hardcover books. And it would be A, B, C, D. Look for your volume. So if I wanted to look up Cuba, I'd go to the C book and pull it out. And now that I think about it, the range of information was just so limited and also very biased. And now what do? We just scroll and look, and we can go down infinite trails of wisdoms and some information, some false information. But man, what a day and night difference. Anyway, I digress a tiny bit. Just brought me back to where I first discovered this sonnet. So I'm going to read it in Italian. It's just an excerpt of it. And then I'm going to read it in the translation in English. Okay. So it's the key of it is going to be about love. And I'm going to tie that into a very big topic. And I'll have to give a little preface to why I'm going into that again when we jump in there. But here is the sonnet. So it's in Italian, older Italian a little bit. So it's amor. La tua beltà non è mortale, nessun volto fra noi che pareggi, l'immagine nel cor che ni fiammi reggi con altro fuoco, I muovi con altra lei. And that means, love, your beauty is not a mortal thing. There is no face among us that can equal the image in the heart, which you kindle and sustain with another fire and stir with other wings. So I found that over 30 years ago. I just found it to be exquisite, extraordinary. And I forget how many sonnets he wrote or attributed to Michelangelo. There are a ton. And for whatever reason, this one jumped out at me. And the line that really did it for me was about love, kind of more universal love. And I love the line in there: there is no face among us that can equal the image in the heart. Okay, so that's going to be really important on the next topic, because as I was thinking of Michelangelo, and also, by the way, he was an architect. He worked on the Dome of the Vatican. He did a ton of architectural work, but most people aren't really, cued into that. It's mostly, his other artistic masterpieces, right? At least ones that are attributed to him. So what started coming up heavy for me was the Pieta. And that's the moment that the Christ is taken off the cross and the Mary figure is holding him, etc. Now, this is going to bring us into a pretty convoluted topic. And oh, yes, I'm going to go there because I just want to present my understanding of Jesus, or the Jesus figure. Apparently, a lot of people looking on YouTube, people in the spiritual path, are speaking of how things are ramping up, like they're getting visited by Jesus or the Christ energies coming in. For me, it's love. And that's kind of why I read this the sonnet at the beginning is because for me, and this isn't going to be, serious religious talk, so nobody freak out. I'm also going to talk about the celestial aspect of what the sun, or homonym sun, S-U-N, son of God, can mean, tying it in with stars and alignments. And also, Jesus' figure and what's in the name. A lot of things are going to tie around this topic. But anyway, I started thinking of Michelangelo's works. And so I'm just going to show a couple legendary ones for anyone not familiar, kind of more like an art history kind of aspect of it. This is called the Deposition, or this is the Pieta, the Florentine Pieta. And so we have Mary and the Jesus coming off the cross, and then we have Nicodemus, and I think that's Mary Magdalene off to the side. And it was unfinished, and the faces are a little rough. And then supposedly somebody else in his studio, sorry, I can't reach, finished that off because it has a totally different feel. You can tell it wasn't done by the hand of Michelangelo, attributed to him, who did the rest of it. But I sat in the presence of this in Florence. It's in a little chapel behind the Duomo, part of the Duomo, and it's called the Opera del Duomo, and just sat there and really took it in. And if you haven't been able to visit places with some of these, I'll say stellar works, because I'm going to tie it into a celestial kind of connection, it really makes all the difference when you just look at this in a book and are actually in the presence of it. Just like, with people, you can see somebody on here, but it's totally different if we are in the presence of each other, experiencing each other's energy fields, right? So anyway, that's, I'm just bringing up the one, and I think some of this imagery was coming on strong with me because I was just really getting the word love and the pink and the lavender colors. That's high frequency. The heart chakra is pink or can be green. And I don't know, guys, it was just streaming in, and I'm just presenting where I was led to go with it. So then that's the Florentine Pieta. Then there's another one that everybody tends to know in the Vatican. Now, this is just the Pieta, and that's Mary holding the Christ figure. Now, she's very youthful looking. He's supposed to be 33, and then she looks even younger. But there are other accounts of her, just kind of never aging, that she did always stay youthful looking. The detail on this is extraordinary. Just going to hold up a few images. So that's the peacefulness of the Christ in there is just truly extraordinary. And I want to bring up, and I like this angle because you don't often see this angle. There's just such a serenity to that sculpture. And I want to bring up a really groundbreaking tip for anybody if you're going to be traveling to Germany. A few copies were made of this larger Pieta that sits in the Vatican, in the Vatican City in Rome. Now, in the Vatican, if you want to try to look at it, it's way far back. It's behind plexiglass or glass. You get no connection or feel to it because it just feels so remote. But there are copies, life-size copies of it. One of them sits, I believe it still does. It did as of maybe 15 years ago. It sits in the basement level of St. Hedwig's Cathedral in Berlin, former East Berlin. Actually, that's the quote-unquote famous book burning square. Huge cathedral, domed cathedral right there. You go in there, you go downstairs, and in one of the little chambers off to the side that kind of goes around in a circle, little rooms, there's a gate, but you see through it, and you are very close, probably less than like 10 feet away, and you can really study it, and it's a perfect copy. So it's like, you can get a very personal connection and feel to it rather than the touristy, very far away, feels so distant and alien for many reasons. I'm not using that word lightly there with the Vatican, but it's so far away, it feels like, remote. Here, it feels in Germany, in Berlin, it does feel very up close and personal. Not, that close, but you feel very close and you can see all the detail. And you just can really feel the love of that sculpture. Okay, that's why I'm trying to tie it back to the love theme. And that sometimes, it's not even about a perfect sculpture. But man, this one happens to really emote. Let me go here, the love. So it's just another angle of the two. You really get that feeling of the Mary in this, that she's made much larger, her shoulder area, that she's just, carrying and holding him like effortless, and just the outpouring of the love of the mother over the Christ was just incredible. Here's one I'll just show you because it shows more of her face. And then, so you can see she looks very youthful. Okay. And then I'll just show, I think, one more of those, and I'll get back into my topic and tie Jesus in the name, the etymology, and also tie him into the stars. And we'll keep going. Actually, no, that one we kind of already saw already. I think I'll just wind it up on that one. Okay, so what I want to say is, let's go back to Jesus. Now, of course, it's a loaded topic, and I'm here to talk with people who have an open mind and can have a nice discussion. If someone's going to get triggered or, has a very specific fixed idea of it, maybe this isn't the part of the show for you. Stay, you're welcome to stay. And just, I hope everybody's here with an open mind and can entertain some interesting angles. Okay, so for me, we have many things talked about, and depending on what religious take or spiritual take, the figure of Jesus is going to mean something very different to you. If you have no tie-in with spirituality or a religion, for you, maybe it is only celestial. That makes sense. And I'm going to read something very interesting on that part where it's tied into, maybe it's just to do with the heavens. For me personally, I think everything, there's something to everything that I'm about to tell you. First of all, I always love to look at etymology of names. So somehow in a serendipitous way, I came upon the name Varleigh from my channel, Lavender Sky Panther, because I misheard a lyric in a song, which was a very loving-based song. And I looked it up. I really liked it. And it turned out that the name Varleigh means great is truth. And that's before I even knew I was going to be doing anything, half of what I'm doing today on YouTube and what I'm sharing on these shows. So it fit. I like it. So for me, it was a curiosity coming strong today, like the name of Jesus. Well, that depends on what language you speak, doesn't it? And if you go back far enough, the thing that really intrigued me, and I don't know if any of you found this to be true, but for me, growing up in Miami area, it was always Jesus. That was just the name. Jesus, that was it. Suddenly in 2019, right as I love, there's a podcast, they call it Covidius Minimus, came around. Right around that time, I remember being in a grocery store around 2019, 2020. And that's the first time I ever heard the word Yeshua being used for Jesus from people that were of a Christian faith. And suddenly everywhere I was going around, I just keep hearing Yeshua. I'm like, hey, man, what happened to Jesus? And it kind of really off-put me. Now, I know some people really love that name for him. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying for me personally, I'm not vibing with that. And the reason why is for me, the etymology is everything. The core root of how things are named is everything. Because when you tie that into galactic groups, and if you believe ETs exist, which I think it's clear on this channel, I've said it over and over, of course they do. For me, there are galactic groups that came into different times in history. And when we get into our true history being revealed, which is coming up every day now, where people are onto it like, hey, I don't think the history we grew up with is quite correct. What if they're ETs, they talk about, is that a drone or a UFO? That opens up the whole ET discussion. Then we know there are galactic ties and galactic origins, galactic families. So for me, history will be completely uncovered and revealed of what really was going on. When you look at the Greeks and the Parthenon of gods, that's one alien ET group that came here. The Romans and their pantheon of gods, which were very similar gods, just slightly different names, a different ET race. You see what I'm getting at? And each of them would have had a different name for a Jesus figure. In Hebrew, that's, I think, more tied with the Yeshua. And for me, that's another galactic group at its origins core. And so that's why I don't really resonate with that particular group. It's said that in the Greek language, it looks like something like Jesus or something, or Jesus with an I at the beginning. And just looking now in modern, whatever you can find on the internet, it says that the Greek took it from the Hebrew, but I don't quite think that's the timing of it. So again, this is a time to really deeply go in and just not even consciously, just, does it feel right to you what's being said? It's the origins. Does that seem like the right origin story or history? Does something feel a little off? Just means to maybe look into it further. Maybe it's correct, or at least for you or for me. But we might each have a kind of different understanding or resonance with what's being said based on what each of our own origins are and who we're tied into galactically, if you will. So going further, though, in the etymology with Jesus, look at, in Italian, it's Gesù, with a G, G-E-S-U with an accent on it, Gesù. In other languages, it's yet again slightly different things. Spanish, Jesus, written Jesus, but Jesus. But there's a very different character and feel to it, depending on how you pronounce it and everything else. So for me, there's a lot going on at once. Nobody has to be right or wrong here. I think there are many forms and many facets of Jesus. Now, some say in certain cultures, no, he was just a teacher. He just came and that was it. Some say, oh, yes, he's the Messiah. Some say, oh, yes, he's the second coming. He comes again. Some say it's just a consciousness. Jesus Christ or Christ is the Christ or Christed consciousness, the pure form, almost like where we have the word crystal as well, right? And just very high vibrational. Others, it's the triumvirate. They call it triumvirate. It's the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, all in one. And we have the Christ consciousness within us. So he's never left. He's been here forever. Then you also get the information shared by Asha Yanadine, which is fascinating. She goes into tons of galactic history and things, and you either resonate with her or you don't, I think. She just pours out nonstop knowledge, and I'm just like in awe because so much clicks as true with me, galactic stuff. But she says, according to some of her knowledge streaming through, is that there were two Christ figures. One was the real man, a form of Jesus, and there was another one that was put up kind of by the Roman side of things, kind of like an imposter, like a fake Jesus. So the real one went off to India, maybe Egypt, and ascended out through the Stargate in the pyramid, although he wouldn't have had to. If he were a high evolved being, he could have been, I think, was just what's called an adept, where he retained his holy consciousness when he got here to this planet and still remembered how to phase through walls, walk on water, and would have absolutely been capable of just with a thought gone back to the source, taking his body with him, just ascended, transcended. So, but apparently at that time, many thousands of years ago, the pyramid would have also functioned as a Stargate where somebody who knew what they were doing could go in there and actually use that as a portal back, quote unquote, home or to the galaxy or wherever. Anyway, that's a fascinating angle to all of this, because I could very much see that, yeah, that to me makes sense, because it supports both ideas that yes, he was a real man, but yes, he was also a divine man who could just ascend at will. He didn't need to prove anything on the cross. The cross to me is more in the line of the oppressive entities that run the planet that have to be like, oh, we killed him and he's a martyr and we're in doom and gloom and all of that. Like for me, if you think of the Christ, there should be no imagery of him suffering on a cross. Heck no. The imagery should be him radiant and flowing and throwing out flowers and loving everyone. It really doesn't resonate with me to be there sorrowful at the feet of a cross. No. So I'm just saying personally that history just isn't in alignment. But not that it didn't happen. I think in the Asha Yanadine information, that makes sense. There was somebody who did suffer and die on the cross, who they made to look like and called a Jesus or whatever. But I think that was like a fake out Jesus. Just saying. Now, for anybody who truly believes in that story that's presented as being fact and that it was him, great. That means it's true for you. It just does not sit as true for me. I kind of more jive with there being a parallel imposter Jesus, if you will, and then the true one. I don't know. That's just what I'm feeling. Now, what I want to say too about the name itself, I felt into it. Like, is there even a name for Jesus? Like, would he want to even be known by a name or just a feeling? Like that feeling when he would walk in a room or heal somebody just by walking by them. Or it said like if somebody just touched the bottom of his robe, they were healed. He just had that aura and that energy field that must have just healed everybody, within sight distance of him, right? So for me, I was trying to feel into it. And I did ask, in prayer and meditation, is there a name for you? Or how would you like to be known? And of course, he goes by many names, Ascended Master for some, there are all kinds of things. But for me, I was just getting, no, it's a feeling. And if there were a word, it would be love, or the I am presence of love. And so I was thinking about it. And if you look at the actual name Jesus, written Jesus, and if you know any French, I don't know much, but this jumped out at me when I saw the phrase Je suis. You just add an I in there. So you spread the word apart, J-E, and then instead of S-U-S, you put a S-U-I-S, as Je suis, I am. So to me, that makes the most sense of the etymology of the word Jesus in English, anyway. Okay, so that's enough of that. But why did I bring that up? Well, I'm going to tie in the celestial part too of Jesus, the Son, the S-O-N, homonym S-U-N, sun in the sky, or star. But before I do that, what did I want to say? Sorry, guys. I was on a train of thought and I just lost it. It was something to do with Jesus, Je suis. Okay, when I replay this, I'll be like, oh, you idiot. I should have just picked it up. I didn't. It's been a long ass month. I'm going to segue it back into the Christmas star and Jesus story too of the heavens, I promise. But I'm going to take a little break and maybe the other thought I had will come back. But I don't know about any of you, but ever since the March 14th, what was it, the partial lunar eclipse? That was my cue where all hell broke loose for a full month, and it just resolved up today, which happens to be the pink full moon tonight. So I'm ready to kiss this last month goodbye. I had a rude awakening at 3:15 in the morning on March 14th with an extended relative who landed in ER trauma, and I was with her like 12 hours straight after being up for 24 hours, that kind of thing. So I'm ready for, it was kind of like a karmic walk. I know, a little like cycle circle we needed to do together. But boy, goodbye last month. I hope you guys had better month than I did. I'm ready to wave goodbye. And also, some of you might be in the, what is it called? Like the 14-year cycle. I don't do astrology or anything. I really admire the people that do, and where it just flows and clicks for them. For me, it's like, I just doesn't compute, but I love hearing what's going on from others. And apparently there's been a 14 plus or minus year cycle where some of us have been in it. I mean, in the trenches, have just felt like we've had to just overcome one thing after the other. Maybe it's been a 14-year long, track of hardships. At least that's been my case. Boy, have I grown spiritually through it all. But man, it's kind of like, you know what? I am done. I am ready. I have given at the office type of thing. I have helped. I have done service to others, and I'll keep doing it until I, whatever, phase out of here, however I'm going to do it. But I'm done. Let's have the happy times, please. And I think that's too why the pink and lavender, kind of energies are coming through, kind of as like a strong little nudge and reminder. Yes, it's coming. The good vibes are coming. And I want to welcome, I hope I say the name correctly, Eben Hawken. And I'm just going to read, always appreciate the photos you post of cloaked craft and objects in our sky. Lots of great evidence. I want to say thank you so much to you. I truly appreciate that. As I started this channel, I think I'm like at 730 videos posted. I know, for example, SugarSeas, I know others out there feel my pain. We've been posting incredible work and findings, and have been severely shadow banned by this platform. Like, it's kind of an impossibility mathematically, algorithmically, for me to have 400 and change subs after 5 years and 700 something videos, right? So I kind of laugh though, because sure, it's not fun. We'd love to see an accurate picture of how many people are seeing the content. And I would love that people wouldn't be shadow banned, because some people have said, yeah, I've tried to comment, I can't. But, here and there, I get inklings of like somebody chimed in from Qatar or some other place here and there, or India. And one little one gets non-shadow banned. And I'm like, okay, it's reaching people. And that's my hope. When I started this channel, it was not about, I had hoped it could be a source of my, permanent work or whatever. But the way everything got so blocked, it was clear, okay, it's not going to be that way. So to anyone out there, live or electronic, trying to block me, I just want to say, you only made me stronger. You really did, because I got more creative and interesting things have happened because you have tried to block me. Now, I don't want to harp on this, because I don't want the energy to be about this. Obviously, I don't care. I wouldn't keep posting if I believed they held any sway or power over me. However, I want to bring up something really funny. So in my previous live 5, here I am talking about what? Bigfoot, Sasquatch, UFOs, galactic stuff. What did they do? The platform, I'll just say YT, puts one of those awful sorry-ass ad-style wiki banner things on my channel. And what do they target after all this outlandish, not outlandish, but in their eyes, if they want to suppress the true information? Oh, that was just hey, let there be light. An extra light went on a timer. I probably should have had that on all the time. Note to self, I'll do that for the next one if there's a next live. But anyway, here they're trying to suppress knowledge, this and that, right? So I love that the one thing they picked on to censor, I only think I said 2 words in that whole video, and it was reptoids or reptilian. I'll say it again: reptoids, reptilians, reptoids, reptilians. What are you going to do? Put another banner? So anyway, they put a banner up. Again, I don't know if it's automatic at this point or by, just search keywords, something's listening, of course, or if it's an actual person clicking. Well, here's a message to you, suckers. If you're going to do it again. On the last Live 5, they put it up and they said, oh, reptilians are mythical, yada, yada. Right. Okay, whatever. But they put that on there. So what did I do? Hell no, I'm not going to accept that. So in the comments, I just put, hey, everybody, YouTube did, nonsensical ad style. Just disregard that ad style banner, which carries misinformation in it. Thanks, Varleigh. And I put that up and it still stays on my channel. And then what happened? Like not even hours later, the banner just disappeared. But I kept my little comments. So anyway, that's a little message to stand up in your power and your truth. I shouldn't even said YT. The only reason why I did a little code on that is I don't want to give them credit. I'm grateful for the platform to be able to, get messages out. However, let's be fair here. Let's be reasonable. Let's be, what do you want? I don't know the phrase. It's just there. Let's just be real about this and based in love and truth and no nonsense, no shenanigans. I'm done. It's like, I don't play. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. So if everybody would just push back a little, standing in their truth and loving truth, these nonsensical things might start to go away, and we can use these platforms more civilized, like, okay, without the nonsense. And you know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. Anyway, okay, that was a nice roundabout way. Take a little detour. I still didn't come up with what I was going to say, but clearly it wasn't important. If it mattered to you, just say so in the chat, okay, guys? And let's see. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Even Hawkins says agreed. They try so hard to bury the truth. Don't we know it? But as they say, right, they didn't know we were seeds, and we'll just keep sprouting again and again and again. So thanks. Okay. Now I just wanted to bring up a really cool angle on the Jesus story. And again, I did not plan on talking about this, although I do love the sculptures, and I truly love that, the sonnet I read to you guys. Because it's just about love is the image in the heart. It's not the image with the physical eyes, although yes, beauty illustrated by some of these, these master artworks, sure. But you just close your eyes and put your hand on heart or your heart field. For me, like I've said in the past, it's not just over here, we're programmed to hold your heart in the States and pledge to the flag, no thank you, once you know what the flag is really about and how that's all generated and the colors and the coding and the programming and the brainwashing of all of that. But anyway, it's the heart space, it's the energy field, that precedes you, that's all around you, wherever you go. And it's that light that even without your conscious power or control lights up a whole room when God wants to work through you, right? All right, so anyway, let's do this. I'm going to put this as a reference in the description area below. I can't remember the name of the site, but I have it on my phone, and I'll put the link. Interesting thing somebody wrote, and I'll hold it up when I'm done. There's a couple of images. So I'm just going to read this verbatim from their site and give them credit. But I like the way they put this, and it's pretty concise, okay? And it's pretty simple. So here it goes. Recently, I heard an interesting story about the 3 stars that create the belt and constellation of Orion, Alnitak, sorry about the pronunciations, Onulum, and Mintaka. As the 3 stars rise in the evening sky of December 24th, they were supposed to point to the dawn on the morning of the 25th, 3 days after the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Thus, in both pagan lore and Christmas stories, we have a rising sun, 3 days after a dying sun that gives hope to the world that everything is going to be okay. We're going to have another growing season and harvest. More importantly, the 3 stars were sometimes known to the ancients as the 3 kings, part of the elusive and enigmatic Star of Bethlehem, legend of the Christmas story. For some historians, these all seem to tie in with actual and therefore verifiable astronomical events. Let's see if they do. So this person went and researched and kind of brought up, I think the name of the program is Stellarium, where you can set the skies, to set the constellations to look like what they would have looked like at different time periods. So this person was kind of going through every kind of generation of millennium to get to what did the skies look like? Did we have the alignment of the 3 stars? That kind of thing. So he did. I think it's a he, maybe it's a she, says resetting the sky for the year 3000 BC, 5,000 years ago, finally aligns the stars of Orion's belt with the rising sun. And they say, see figure 3. For a bonus, Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, is also aligned and peaks up over the horizon just before sunrise. Now, that's a story you can tell your prehistoric kids and grandkids. Okay, they say that because this site has to do with some dinosaur fossils research and all that. Okay, I don't think it's going to turn out where you can really see it, but the diagram shown, and I'll try to avoid the glare. Sorry, guys, it's pretty dim, but the Orion's belt is, up. Okay, hang on. Now I get to hear my phone chime. Sorry about that. Here, let me go this way. I am truly sorry about this. Here we go. I'm trying to find the good lighting too. Dang it. Here we go. Okay, maybe you can see it here. Hopefully, okay. Up here, there's the 3 stars. The arrow's coming down to Sirius. And then that's the daytime view. Anyway, I'll give you the link. You'll see it much better and clearer there. But I like that. That's what gets back to what I'm saying. This makes sense to me at the Christmas story involving the Christ, involving Jesus, that it could be astronomical. Also could be real, finding the manger, the wise men coming across the desert bearing the gifts of the frankincense and myrrh and gold, right? All very spiritual, all very possible. For me, I said on the previous show, the Christmas star, so to speak, could have been a UFO right over where the Jesus figure was being born, or it could have been Jesus himself as a Merkaba coming down. I'm not going to rule anything out. Was I there? Were you there? No. I mean, some people can feel it out or have dreams about it. But again, that's why it's all very personal, this story or this history or this fact, right? It's whatever's real to you. So for me, all of it has a kernel of truth. The celestial story, the desert story, as with the, being on the cross and the rising and all of that, can absolutely be one person was there living the very earthy element of that. Another was maybe off on the more spiritual level doing that. I mean, I just don't think we can box anything in and just say that was the one story. I think there are many stories, many overlays of stories, many truths. We get into parallel dimensions. I know those exist. Then we're talking, you lived it somewhere and felt it, so that was real to you. But in this other dimension, you lived this story. So yeah, that's real to you too. They're all true. Okay, that's all I want to say. I didn't expect to get into that topic, but I'm just saying with that sonnet that started it all, and the sculpture, and just really the idea of love and the purple and pinks, right? Okay, I have no idea what time we're at. Okay, well, hey, actually, this is pretty timely at about an hour. So unless anybody in chat, and again, thank you for stopping through there and being kind enough to comment, if you could join me live. If you have anything else you want to say, I'll try to catch it now, or if you want to bring up any topics, let me know. Otherwise, I just try to dump and sprinkle things here and there that might be of interest to any of you to look into further if you like, and always inspire you to start your own channels if you haven't yet. Just start posting things, do that creative expression. Okay, well, I think I don't see anything else pop up, but tremendous peace and love to everybody. In the spirit of this whole theme, just tremendous love to everyone. I think a lot of us are going through so many things, and it's so easy to get caught up into, oh my gosh, this feels like burden. Oh, I feel like I've been energy vampired and siphoned and sucked dry of my good energy. Just be sure that, when you're waking up every day, make sure you take care of the self. So make sure you get something to eat or drink before you do anything else for anybody else. It's that whole, I know it's a cliche by now, an overused phrase in some spiritual communities, but it's true. You cannot pour or give from an empty cup. So fill your own cup up so that you can then have that like endless well of, like a fountain of energy to give to others, rather than trying to give from a sad, tired, worn out old shoe kind of, concept. And just remember, if you're, whatever you might be going through, if it's something very difficult, you will get through it just one foot in front of the other. And don't forget, you got a huge team around you of the unseen. Say you feel very alone. I've had a lot of relatives pass because of the injections. I'm just going to say it. It's taken them out. Unfortunately, they had the free will. I tried to advise against it, but they got to live out their life. And so I had to understand that, honor it, and respect it. But because of that, different things and dynamics in life have become very challenging in different ways. Some as hardships, but a lot of beautiful things have come through or are born through those hardships. So I'm not complaining, but what I'm saying is some of you might really have lost a lot of people, quote unquote, or they've transitioned. or you just literally feel very alone, just a reminder that there's a whole team of the unseen. So if you can't see that love in an animal, say like a stray cat shows up in the backyard, or looking at a plant or a flower and suddenly you just feel a very strong connection, something comforting. Like they say, hug a tree. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely comforting. Or earthing with the shoes off, on the ground. Things like that absolutely do help, especially if you feel completely alone. And also the team of the unseen is so vast. I've said before, not just, Jesus, God, Mary, Buddha, Allah, whoever you look to, archangels. They say I don't resonate with that. Other people do. But just guardian angelics, anyone who's passed before, your ancestors, galactic beings. There is a whole team of love around us, just because we don't necessarily see them or feel them or sense them. Some of us do, but a lot of us don't. But there is a bigger team of people. For me, sometimes it just feels like a big illuminated cloud, not literally, although I see those a lot. But in my mind's eye, it just feels like one beautiful, warm, glowing cloud hovering. And to me, that's kind of like a big soul, heart energy, probably of a collective, a lot of beings. It's just all that love coming in. But I don't even see a face. So getting back to the Jesus discussion, I never see God or Jesus as a face. Definitely not seeing God as an old man with a white beard and flowing everything. And Jesus also, yeah, he seems, very nicely presented in a lot of imageries. But for me, it's more of just feeling love and like a glow ball of light, right? Anyway, I know I went on and on. For anybody who's going through stuff alone, or if you're caregiving, can be very taxing. That's what I just went through in this last month. Intense again, like for round 2, after a couple of years of taking somebody through hospice level. And I'm like, really? You're tapping me for this? It's not even my trade. But God is like, flowed through me and give me all that I need to carry out this role for different people when no one else could be there. So I'm literally like just after all of that again. And, feeling tapped and spent, and like, really, where was nobody else to do this? I had to like carry it all, but I was supported by the unseen. So anyway, that can be extremely challenging. And I know if you're out there caregiving, you might be at your wit's end or even crying. It's just a lot. So just know I am with you if you're doing that, because that is such amazing work. And also just for anybody who on the daily is doing healing work, what that can mean. So to everyone out there doing that, extra thanks, to you for your role. Now, also, if you're not in that position and things are flowing and abundant and really great in your life, more power to you. And we, cheer you on and champion you, and like, yay, I'm glad somebody's living that life, right? And, because we need that too, as good examples out there, and every range of what we're all going through. At the end of the day, maybe I'll end on this quote. I've mentioned it before. I was at a lecture by Neale Donald Walsch, and I wanted to go in person. He was the one that authored Conversations with God. And that was a book I never wanted to read. Somebody handed it to me 15 years ago and said, oh, here, you might want to read this. And I'm like, the title alone made it like too churchy. And I'm like, oh gosh, is this going to be like a heavy religious book? No, thank you. That never resonated with me. So I wasn't going to even read it. I was thinking churchy. And that was not nice to judge. I literally judged the book by its cover, its title back then. And I'm like, it's too churchy, whatever. So I even put it into a garage sale with a friend we were doing. And I thought for sure it sold, or if it didn't sell, I had left it with the friend to take care of, whatever was left over. And I hit a real low in my life shortly after, a couple of weeks. And I was going into the house, and I went to go get something out of the trunk of my car. And the only thing in there was this book, Conversations with God. And I was at a real low point, I'm talking. So that was kind of one of my great awakening moments. So I picked up the book, went inside, sat on the kitchen floor crying, reading this book. And that book in the moment was what I needed to read to set me get me well on my way on my journey with the spiritual path. And in that book, I just want to say, I went to the lecture. I wanted to feel his energy in person, because a lot of times when some of these books and movies really make it big, we don't know if the person portraying it, who authored it, if it's an actor, if they are, truly in a high vibration, or there's just channeling energies through and they're into some dark arts practices. We're hearing that a lot lately with the whole Hollywood scene. And anyway, what I want to say is when I went to the lecture with him, I did get a good read on his energy. It felt good and very peaceful, very, very peaceful. And I like what he brought out in one of the lectures that was coming through him, and however he brought stuff through like automatic writing in his books. But what he said is there's one of us in the room. And that's just so perfectly sums up everything. There's many facets of us living life, maybe also different versions of us in different parallel dimensions, experiencing all kinds of things. God just sends out that spark from the sparkler everywhere. Let's experience it all, not just one little thing. Let's do it all. And so a lot of us, it said there could be 11 or 12 yous, like versions of us, living and doing different things. And we get a deja vu when the like two versions of us kind of cross. That's a possibility. I think there's a lot of valid, feeling to that. But anyway, one of us in the room. So some of us are going through the real pit and trenches. Others are going through the euphorias. And so I think on a certain level, we can all, we sense that in the collective family. That's why if we're going through a rough patch, we're just never going to just stay there permanently. And nobody's going to stay on this high euphoria. There's got to be some kind of balance. And bringing up the idea of balance and talking about the actors and authors and things that make it big. I just want to say I'm reminded, I was trying to think too, and this really will sum it up unless somebody has anything else in chat. When talking about the Jesus figure and everything else and what Jesus represents, regardless if you believe is an actual man, is still a living consciousness, a being. Anyone who leaves this planet is still alive. It's just a transition of frequency, not a death. But anyway, I was also thinking of what examples have I seen here with the Jesus, supposedly portraying the Jesus figure intentionally, or what examples have I seen out there that would be like a modern Jesus, out and around? What qualities or attributes would be within that Jesus? Of course, not just only walking in the room with a beautiful smile, uplifting everybody and healing them just with a hug or a smile, right, or good intention. But then I was thinking about the movie, and this ties it into, I hope, the actors. I'm going to just reference the role, not the actual actor. I hope they are of high vibration. But I got to say, when I was kind of looking, what man in modern times would represent that? It was the role of Aragorn or Strider in the Lord of the Rings series, because I think that actor perfectly captured what it means to balance have the balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in one, and applying it to the earthly plane. So where you can have that sensitivity and compassion and depth for another, but also have to be ready to stand and fight if there's some evil force trying to harm innocence. And I think there was a really nice balance in that role, in that character, in the especially in the first two movies, I guess. Yeah, and especially in the book, how it's written, his character in the book, I think really encapsulates that as a healer, but also compassionate, but also of the earth. So you got the divine range and also integrating it with the very earthly realm. Anyway, I guess I'll just end on that. Hope any of this made sense, or at least there's something in here you found enjoyable. And otherwise, maybe there's a next one. I don't know. We always find out each week. We'll find out each week if I should keep doing lives or not. But anyway, I will actually sign off now. So tremendous peace and love to you. Carry on. Have a gorgeous right now. And if you need an extra energy boost or anything, sending it to you right now. Take care, everyone. Bye. And let's see how many clicks it takes to end this. Bye.